echoes vast like ocean waves. The anthems thrill the fluid veins. Choirs lift us high, then crash. Triumphant cries through sacred chains. Beneath the lights we conquer. Feel the dreams are cloud of strife. Heroes born from sweat and grit. Forever chance through endless life. We are the raging hearts in stadiums pulse alive. Under neon glare defiant, this fever we thrive.
Hi guys, just Mike Barilaro here from the Global Sport Fanatics podcast. I wasn't actually going to release anything today after this morning's video, but I've been overwhelmed with the response, and I really appreciate everyone reaching out and subscribing to the page already and liking the pages. And a lot of people who do know me have obviously been excited because they know I love sport, they know I love to have a chat, and they're keen to hear the podcast. So it's a little nerve-wracking. I'm happy that we're finally there. I wish I was ready to launch today. I probably... maybe this Monday, I will probably launch it, which will analyse this weekend's results. AFL Grand Final. We have the 2 NRL preliminary finals. So there's a lot to discuss, which is great. I've already had some emails regarding some questions. I've had one person inquire about my theories on the Bulldogs next year. I've had some other ones inquire about some horse racing. The Cox Plate's coming up. They want to have some advice regarding that, which is great. So we're already moving. Again, wish I could launch today, but I just thought, out of respect for how everyone has reached out and given me their congratulations and their thumbs up, I thought, you know what, I'll put up a little video just to discuss the 2 major events that are happening this weekend, which is the AFL Grand Final and the NRL preliminary finals. And a quick shout out to, this day actually became much more wonderful because I unexpectedly welcomed my new cousin into the world this morning. And I think in respect to talking about a Global Sport Fanatics podcast, my cousin-in-law is a monster NBA supporter, and he has named his child Kobe James Murray. That's as good as it gets. I didn't see that coming. He withheld that information from everyone, but Kobe James Murray, he's a huge Kobe supporter. Respect, rest in peace. Huge LeBron James supporter. Kobe James Murray, I get to call him that the rest of my life, which is fantastic. So shout out to my cousins Monica and Alex and the whole Demento family. Good luck to you guys. Now, back to the sport. So again, the reason I decided to have a little bit of a chat today is because the AFL Grand Final is coming up. NRL preliminary finals coming up. This is the best weekend of the year. And it only actually happens once every second year. Whatever happens every second year, the NRL and AFL Grand Finals coincide on the same weekend. But I love this version. I love the version where you have the AFL Grand Final on the Saturday. You have the NRL preliminary final starting tonight on a Friday. The second NRL preliminary final happening on a Saturday. And then you don't get that weird depression that you get after the NRL Grand Final when you realise it's just all done and dusted. No more AFL, no more NRL. Oh, what do we do now? Now, I'm okay with that because I love the NFL. And obviously the cricket season comes around pretty quickly, but I hate that feeling. So I love the idea that we get to have a prelim on a Friday night. We get to have an AFL Grand Final on a Saturday afternoon. And another preliminary final on a Saturday evening. And then we get to do it all again the following weekend on the Sunday Grand Final. Best weekend of the year. Happens once every 2 years. I wish they would make it mandatory every year. But that's okay. That's neither here nor there. My thoughts though, we've got to start with the AFL Grand Final. Being from Sydney, incredibly proud of the Sydney Swans. And how good is it that we get 3 Origin games a year and all of a sudden the AFL, they've given us a 4th. Sydney versus Brisbane, here we go. Look, both teams deserve to be there. I know Brisbane's had an unusual season. At times they've looked brilliant. They've probably looked like the premiership favourites at many times. But somehow, I'm not sure how they finished 5th, but they did. But I was so concerned about the Brisbane Lions coming into this final series. I spoke to a few mates and I thought, look, the Sydney Swans, if they can get through GWS, they'll make the grand final. That was going to be a tough first game. But my biggest concern was the Brisbane Lions. Obviously, on the back of what happened last year, losing a grand final by 2 points, excruciating, particularly to Collingwood. But I just looked at their run and I thought, well, they're going to get through Carlton. That was a no-brainer. But after Geelong had defeated Port 138-54, I mean, it was just a bludgeoning. Geelong with a week off, we know what Geelong's like in the finals, and them with a week off, MCG was going to be absolutely pumping. I just thought to myself, if the Brisbane Lions can make the grand final, knowing that they're going to have to get through one of the Sydney teams, obviously someone had to lose 1 versus 4. If they were able to get through that second week, go down to Melbourne, knock off Geelong, the hell we're going to be so hard to beat. Because look, it's a tough way to get to the grand final, but once you're there, you're there. There's no excuses. Fatigue's not an issue anymore. And 2 hours. They've got 2 hours to reclaim what should have been theirs last year. Look, I'm hoping that on the same page when you discuss redemption, the Sydney Swans can atone for that horrific performance in the 2022 grand final. I'm still not sure what happened there, but they were gone after 10 minutes. Surely that hunger has to be there to make up for what went wrong. So it really is a story of two teams looking to make amends for what's happened in the last 2 years, which in a way is great. In a way, it's great. And I've got nothing against Melbourne teams. I'm not one of those Sydney-siders who just loves the fact that there's no Melbourne teams in the AFL grand final. I legitimately feel these are the two best teams in the competition. One of them finished minor premiers. The other one finished a distant 5th. But all in all, I still think they're the second best team in the competition. The betting suggests it's going to be a real close game. Very often when I look at games, I'll look at the betting markets because the betting markets will tell you a lot about what you need to know about the game. And the current betting markets, I've just checked them, but Sydney are $1.75 and the Lions are $2.08. Now, that's a bit extraordinary for mine because a lot of money would have gone on Sydney as the season's gone through. That's how the markets are framed. I can't see why so much money had gone on the Brisbane Lions. So to frame the markets at $1.73 to $2.08, that suggests that the bookies are willing to take a risk on the Swans. They believe that the Brisbane Lions can get up. So that's always a bit of a worry. In terms of worrying on the field, the matchups, there's some to die for. There really is. Got to watch Big Joel Danaher in the middle there, but the Swans have to stop Charlie Cameron. I've just got a feeling that if the Lions win, Charlie Cameron will be walking away with the Norm Smith medal. So Blakey's going to have his hands full. It's a huge task. I think it's going to be a low-scoring grand final. I don't think the teams are going to hit 90 points. I think it's going to be maybe even within a goal. I'm going to go Sydney 87, 84. I'm just going to go Sydney. I'm betting with my heart, obviously. I don't like to analyse games where one of my teams is involved because I don't have that objectivity. But Swans deserve to be favourites. They deserve to win the grand final. But if they are going to lose to anyone, well, at least the Brisbane Lions they atoned for what happened last year. And I think if you're going to sum it up, that's probably the only way I can justify not being too cranky at the end of the game if the Swans don't get it done. I still think the Swans have to improve. I still don't know if they've completely recaptured that form that had them at 13-1 earlier in the year. They were shocking for a 6-week period there. They just couldn't get anything done. Getting dusted by Port by almost over 100 points, actually. That was the low point of the season by far. They've come back. They were really good in the preliminary final. Port Adelaide had them 8 straight games in a row. But when it really mattered in the prelim, the Swans got the job done. So I like their form. Holding a team to 59 points in a prelim is a big effort. Port looked a little bit tired. They got smoked against the Cats, and the Hawthorn game was absolute war. If you haven't watched a game of AFL, if you're not interested, well, you know what? Go check out the Port Hawthorn semi-final because that's as good as it gets. 75-72. It was, and it never kicked away at any point. It was just nip and tuck within the goal pretty much the whole way. 2 hours, 4 quarters. Someone had to finish in front, and it was Port. It became pretty evident to me the winner of that game was just not going to beat the Swans at that point. You could just feel too much energy had been taken out of them. To come and beat Sydney in Sydney was going to be too much of a task. Sydney were refreshed. Good win against GWS, a week off. Isaac Heaney, I think he's the best player in the game. He's going to have to win the Norm Smith medal. Simple as that. The Swans to win, he has to win the Norm Smith medal. He has to be the best on ground. Charlie Cameron's the worry. Lachie Neale, great player. The Lions have got some serious weapons, and it's really going to come down to who controls contested possessions, who's going to get their head over the ball and really fight for those contested possessions in the midfield. Both teams are They can be very prolific in front of goal. The Swans, they were 9-1 at halftime last week. If they're going to be that accurate, they're going to win. They're just going to win. But what the Lions have proven in the last 2 weeks is they're never dead. You get 25, 30, even 40 points ahead of them, they can come and get you. And they do it. They just stick to their system. They believe in their processes. They made a grand final last year. This is a real tough game for the Swans. It could be one of the best grand finals we've ever seen. And historically, the grand finals between the two interstate teams, Port gave the Lions a bit of a hiding in that first one, but those next two, Swans and West Coast, well, I can watch those games even today and I still get hairs that stand up at the back of my neck. To have two grand finals where the aggregate difference was 3 points combined. Extraordinary. So interstate grand finals have a history of putting on absolute crackers. I don't think tomorrow's going to be any different. I think they're the two best teams in the game. I think we're going to see the best game of the year. And hopefully the Swans, tugging from the heartstrings, I hope they get up. Love the Swans. They've given you 7 grand finals in the last 20 years. I couldn't be more prouder to call myself a Swans fan. I've been down to Melbourne a few times this year. I've worn my Swans gear proudly. Unbelievably, they've never once since I've been down there. Unfortunately, it was when they kept losing games, but they're a great franchise. They're doing a wonderful job. Credit to both franchises. I think it's going to be the game of the year. Come on, Swannies. But I must admit, I'm going to have a restless night sleeping tonight. But the beers are ready. The barbecue's ready. We're going hard tomorrow. So that's the AFL.
Cold wind, biting whispers, victory within our grasp.
Let's get into the rugby league. This game tonight, Melbourne Storm, boggles the mind. I've gone over the lineups. I keep going over them and I keep thinking to myself, how? I mean, they've got an amazing spine. An amazing spine. Jerome Hughes, an amazing player. But they haven't had Cameron Munster 3/4 of the year. They haven't had Brian Pappenhausen half the year. I don't understand how they keep doing it. Wishart, by the way, best utility in rugby league. What a player. Just another product of that Bellamy. What a coach, honestly. But the Melbourne Storm, it's a tricky game tonight. Everyone reckons the Storm are just home, but I don't know. I've just got this weird feeling. I'm not a Roosters supporter. And it's not because I'm from Sydney. But I just keep looking at that Roosters lineup, like that back line. Like, besides Tedesco, the whole back line is 6'5" plus. Dominic Young, Swaligi, Joey Manu, Daniel Tupou. It's big, it's fast, it's skillful. It's completely dominant compared to who they're showing up with Nick Meaney and the likes. There's a distinct advantage for the Sydney Roosters tonight. And then you think, well, that must mean that their forwards are no good. Well, no, they've got Wadia Hargraves. They've got Lindsay Collins. Victor Radley's back. How good was Victor Radley last week? They've got Angus Crichton. Oh, Brandon Smith's out. And they just bring in Connor Watson, Origin player. What an extraordinary lineup. Look, Melbourne Storm are the most consistent team in the NRL. They have been for 25 years. Consistency doesn't win your premierships at this time of the year. You've got to be brilliant when it counts. And the Roosters tonight, they might get the job done. Sam Walker's a loss, but Luke Keary's the main playmaker in that team. He's the one with the experience. He's the one with the premiership credentials under his belt. And I think Trent Robinson, he needs to change the way he wants to attack this game. Trent Robinson is a great coach. The Roosters, they love to be aggressive. They love to try to be the aggressive side on the field. But I think tonight they need to change their mentality. They need to take a Penrith-style approach to this game. When you've got a back line as big, as strong, as fast as what the Roosters have, they need to take the Penrith approach. That first hit-up has to be Tedesco. It's got to follow up with a Dominic Young or a Tupou. It's got to follow up with a Manu and a Swaligi. They've got to put the flick passes away. They've got to put the chips. They've got to put all the brilliance away, and they've just got to eat those meters up, get into that Storm pack, and just turn them away. If they're going to try to play them in the forwards, the Storm, they'll just resist. They won't dominate, but they're just going to resist. They'll slow down the ruck. The power running of Wadia Hargraves, Lindsay Collins, Angus Crichton, it's going to be null and void. That's what Melbourne do. That's what they do so well. But that leg speed coming out of the back line, that could be the difference. That could get Melbourne Storm coming backwards. The forwards not doing the work, staying around that sort of 30, 40, 50 metre line, letting the backs run up to the forwards, kick, chase, tackle. Let the forwards be aggressive in defence. Not do the work by running back and trying to take the hit-ups. Just doing what the Panthers do. Let the backs run it up to them. Luke Keary drills into the corner. Sanders Smith drill it into the corner. Just keep a simple, champ. Don't have to do much. And then just allow the Melbourne backs to just ruck it out with Wadia Hargraves and Victor Radley and Lindsay Collins and Angus Crichton and Kyle Watson. The list goes on. And then you've got Spencer Lenny off the bench, Terrell May off the bench. What a lineup. Unbelievable. But just be aggressive. Hit, stick, pick up, drive backwards, dominate field position. And do it for 80 minutes. That's it. Just do it for 80 minutes. Be prepared to win the game 8-6. Be prepared to win a 6-4. Be prepared to win a 4-2. Be prepared to win it 2-0. Whatever it takes. Keep the Melbourne Storm back line, trying to ruck it out from their try line. Don't make your forwards do too much work in attack. And make your backs work. Just get your hands dirty tonight, guys. You have 80 minutes to get the job done. The Melbourne Storm, they're going to be ready. We know that. Craig Bellamy's making the case as the greatest coach of all time. All time. That includes Jack Gibson. But the Sydney Roosters have a distinct advantage in that back line. And if they decide it's just about getting through to next week, don't worry about passes. Don't worry about the flick passes, the cheapies. Just ruck it up, kick, chase, tackle, rinse, repeat, and for God's sake, improve your discipline. Stop giving away penalties. If they do that, they can win this game. Am I prepared to pick them? Well, I've probably quartered myself into saying that they're going to win it now. I've probably convinced myself that the Roosters can win this game. So, you know what? Bugger it. I'll back them. Roosters to win tonight. But they've got to be smarter. They've got to get their ego out. They've got to not worry too much about trying to be overly aggressive by running the ball. They just have to have their backs do the work tonight. The backs have to do the donkey work. Let the forwards worry about defence. And if they do that, they're every single chance. So that's game one. Now, game two, look, there's not much to talk about here. Game two, I don't want to be disrespectful to Cronulla. I think Craig Fitzgibbon can be a wonderful coach. I don't give him a chance. I don't give him a cat and hell's chance of winning this game. I can't see it. I can't see it. I think Trindle is the most underrated ball player in the competition. I read today he's on $300,000 a year. Bargain. I know Sharks fans I know a lot of Sharks fans that have just convinced that Trindle should be running that team and not Nico Hines. I wouldn't give up too quickly on Nico tonight, though, but his form in the big games haven't screamed clutch. Just my opinion, but I think it's there for everyone to see. Huge performance tonight from Nico Hines is needed. Tomorrow night is needed. If they're going to beat Penrith, whatever Nico Hines has ever done in the game, times that by 10, and he's got to bring it out tomorrow night. That's it. There's no other way around it. Because the guy he's going up against, Nathan Cleary, you talk about GOAT in the game, he's making a case. He's making a case. A fourth straight premiership does it give him that title? I mean, that's how good Andrew Johns was. Even after 4 consecutive premierships, I'm still not willing to give him that mantelpiece. It's going to be hard to make that argument if he goes 5 or even 6, but at the moment, even with 4, I'm still not prepared to say he was the best player I've ever seen. But my goodness, he's making a case. The Panthers, they look fit. They look healthy. They've continued to plug holes with players moving on to different clubs. I just don't know how Cronulla get the job done. Panthers are prepared to win the game in the 79th minute. And that's how they play. They never need to win the game in the 79th minute, but they play the game in a way where they're prepared to win it in the 79th minute. They're not worried about the fancy stuff. Everything I just mentioned about the Roosters, that's Penrith 101 every week, and it has been for 4 years now. 5 years, actually. So they're willing to do the dirty work. Do Cronulla have the thump in that chest? Do they have the heart to go with the Fisher Harrises and the Leotas, Isaiah Yo's, Liam Martins, and some of them more unheralded back rowers and their forwards are doing a great job for Penrith. They just come in. Doesn't matter who comes into that system. They just do the job. Their backs, you know what's going to happen with the backs. They're just going to keep doing exactly what I said the Roosters need to do tonight. Once they win that field position battle, they get 30, 40 metres out. Nathan Cleary clicks it into gear. Not a bad teammate with Jerome Luai there. Dylan Edwards, he's become a really good ball player. Maybe not compared to some of the other better ones in the game, but compared to where he was 4 or 5 years ago, he's really excelling now in his ball playing duties. And Nathan Cleary, he just plays patient. He waits for them to win that field position battle, gets him into 30, 40 metres out, and then it's on. And I'm just not sure. Look, I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout scoreline. I don't think it's a 40, 50-point game. I can see it be something like 18-4, 22-6, something where you look at it and think, well, the Panthers didn't put him to the sword on the scoreboard, but you just were left in no doubt from the first minute who was going to win that game. That's what they do so well. I just can't see it. Look, I don't want to say that to Cronulla supporters. I think it's a good thing if Cronulla get to the grand final. I think it'll be exciting. But I just can't see it. And at the same time, if I'm the Roosters, if I'm the Storm, I'm not sure I want to see Cronulla there on grand final day. I know that sounds funny, but I heard Clint Gutherson say something about this after the Broncos lost. He was actually happy because he wants to be part of a team that beats the Panthers. It's not about winning the title anymore. It's about beating the Panthers to win the title. It will not mean as much next week if the Roosters or the Storm, whoever wins tonight, if they get through and Cronulla somehow get the job done tomorrow night. If they have to beat the Sharks to win the title, it just won't mean as much. Four grand finals in a row the Panthers are looking at. They've won 3. You'll want to be knocking the Panthers off to win that title. So that's my opinion on the matter. I can't see it. I'm going to go 22-4, 22-6, somewhere around that, in a dominant performance from start to finish. Cronulla will create opportunities. They're probably the best attacking side in the competition as it pertains to stripping the edges for numbers. They do it so well. They've got some big, bulky backs as well. A lot of speed with Ronaldo Mulatalo and Sione Katoa. They're big in the centres. They can create opportunities. That's their go-to. They're going to have to do it all night. They're really going to have to test Penrith's edges there. If they're going to get into a battle in the middle of the field with the Panthers, they're going to get destroyed. So Cronulla, they have to play the opposite to what the Roosters have to do. They have to move the ball, and they have to look to shock the Panthers, jump out to a lead, and hope they can hang on. Hope that pressure of the occasion just gets to the Panthers, which is probably not going to happen. 16-0 down in the or 16 points down in the grand final with 15 minutes. That wasn't enough to stop them. So I don't think that's what's going to happen in that case. But they're going to have to move the ball around. They're going to have to establish a lead. They're going to have to force the Panthers to chase, and that lead better be big enough. Because if it's 4 or 6, it's not going to work. It needs to be around that 16 points, 20-point mark. And then the Sharks have to defend for their lives. Because Nathan Cleary, he won't stop until he gets those points. We've seen it. We've seen it before. He's done it this year. He did it in the grand final. It's going to be really tough. I can't see Cronulla winning. I wish him the best. But I'm going to go at Panthers. And, well, based on what I've just said, I'm going to say a Panthers and Roosters grand final. Bugger it. I was going to say that the Storm are going to win, but this is the way the Roosters have to get it done. But I've just talked myself into it. I'm just going to say Panthers, Roosters grand final. Let's see what happens there. If Melbourne get there, though, I still think it's going to be an extraordinary grand final. So Swans to win the AFL grand final. Roosters and Panthers to contest the NRL grand final. But for the sake of the game, the Panthers have to get there. Well, there you go, guys. That was just me doing a bit of ad-libbing before we go live next week. Gives you an idea of the kind of content and what we're going to be discussing. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Fans roar, it's hotter than gas. Echoes fast like ocean waves. Anthems thrill the fluid veins. Clutch defeat.